alarm.
Elf alarm.
I've had to start setting like an alarm because there's been a couple of nights where I've like gotten into bed and been like, job's done. And then just as I'm drifting off, it's like, do. I'm like, oh, fuck.
Elf on the Shelf is like relatively new in Australian culture, isn't it?
I'm pretty sure it is. Like, I was introduced to it through like neighbours because I think their kids had it. And they were like, hey, do you do this? I'm like, well, I've never heard of this. And then they're like, oh, yeah, because our kids do it. And then they bought us one. And they're like, yeah, you should do it. And I think it's because they wanted us to do it. So their kids went like, why don't they do it?
Actually didn't know what it was. Like, it was one of those things that was always referenced in American culture. And then I actually just bothered to, like, ask someone or look it up, like, this year. And I was like, yeah, it's weird. That's kind of weird.
They spy on you and they move around the house when you're asleep.
I mean, that's what you really want around Christmas time, is to foster a deep sense of paranoia in your children so that when there's a real prowler in your home, they will not fear him because they will think he is part of Santa's team.
My uncle used to do a thing where with his kids where he would make like cardboard fires, like get cardboard boxes and paint them as little fires and come out and put them around the house. And then in the dead of night where the kids were sleeping, he would set off all the fire alarms in the house and then see how long it would take them to safely get out of the house. And if they ran into a fire, like he would just be like, you're dead. No warning, middle of the night, just pew, 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 pew. They'd be like, running around.
Quite literally a baptism of fire.
Yeah. Not one of them has burned to death in a fire. So
that
who's the fool now?
That has solved itself.
He was a genius.
Hey, Angus Brown, welcome to Reanimate.
Thank you. It's lovely to be back. It's been a while.
Yeah, I think it was Creepshow.
Yeah, it was Nazi Jeff was the last time that I was here.
Nazi Jeff. He is good as a villain.
He's great as a villain.
That is what he is quite good at, and it works well in this because it is silly. I am trying to be kinder about the films these days.
This film is Jeff's audition, just slightly too late, to play one of the bad guys in Home Alone.
Yeah. He should be in a Home Alone style movie where he has to go up against like a rambunctious pair of cute siblings.
Yeah. He's both villains from the original Home Alone in one character in this movie. He's like of the gawky, bumbling like buffoon, but also quite menacing and angry for no real discernible reason.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's got a touch of the Joe Pesci, but then also a touch of the Daniel Stern. And I think that's, as all of us, all of us have two wolves inside of us. And
which one does he feed in this movie, though? Who is he feeding? Is he feeding the Stern or the Pesci?
Look, I reckon it's slightly more of the Pesci.
Yeah. Only because he's surrounded by people who are only doing Stern. Yeah. Like a weird French guy. And then just, I'm sure we can get into this, but the truck driver, or the van driver, both the actor and the character look like they just do not want to be there so badly. Like anywhere else would be better.
There's a little bit of that. And it may not be obvious yet, but the film we're covering is Elfman, because 'tis the season. From 2012, and I think that this was kind of like Jeff's, I guess, entry into kids' films because he did Beethoven's Treasure Trail like 2 years after this. So, I think that, he was like, okay, I'll do these, like, I'll be like the wacky villain in kids' films. And I'm surprised that he hasn't done more of it because, he's quite good.
I wondered when I was watching it if this started out with the intent of being a kids' film or if this started out as a full-on grown-ups movie. And then somewhere in the writing or production of they're like, hey, let's tone it down. Because it seems like Wee Man, who is the star of this film, it seems like he either thought when he got into this movie or was told at the start of this movie, you're going to be basically bad Santa but an elf. And then it's completely G-rated the whole way through.
It is. It's very saccharine.
And you can see him the whole time be like, when do I do something god-awful or say something god-awful because that's my wheelhouse. Why won't you let me be fucking gross?
Yeah, he's a Jackass guy. Like, there's no reason for children in 2012 to know who Jackass is. So there's no reason for them to be like, oh, I recognize this guy as the guy from Jackass. But I don't know, maybe that was just him being like, I want to pivot into being like a proper actor outside of the Jackass movies. Which is also fine because I don't think apart from Johnny Knoxville, I don't think many of the Jackass guys have really pivoted to like quote unquote proper films.
Not that I've ever been. I love Jackass, so I was really excited when I came across this film.
I also love Jackass. Make no mistake.
It was quite a surprise and delight to be like, oh wow, because obviously Knoxville did a lot of stuff and a lot of really good stuff. I think he's a really good actor.
He is great, yeah.
And he's just getting better as he sort of leans into it harder. But the rest of them, I think it was the CKY stuff, like Bam Margera's independent films like Haggard and I can't remember the other one, but him and Pontius and...
Haggard, God, I remember that.
That was such a good movie.
Yeah, I think that a lot of my year 8 to 9 crush on Bam Margera is all flooding back to me now. I was trying to explain the appeal of Bam Margera to some men. And look, it's a very specific type of girl who likes a very specific type of man. So if you look up, Bam Margera circa 2000 to 2004, whatever, maybe you'll get it. But some of you are going to be like, yep, that's what I was into.
I think the fact that his like logo was a love heart pentagram, that's all you need to know. Like if you look at that,
well, that wasn't his logo. So that was, I'm pretty sure it's like the exact same logo as the band Him, who he was like obsessed with back in the day. I think in
Australia it's called Her because there was already another band called Him. I think everyone in the world they're Him except Australia they're Her. I'm almost certain about this. It's the same as like Blink-182 was originally called Blink, but there was like an Irish band who got there first, like, we're Blink, and like, fine, we'll be Blink-182, and no one ever heard the Irish
but they don't
band
change their name when they come to a different country.
No, but there's another band that has to do that as well. This is going to drive me insane because I sound like I'm lying, and I'm not. I'm almost certain that Him has to be called Her when they're here, and there's another band I remember that when they tour, Jack White's like superstar band, the one he did with like half the guys from the Decemberists. They're called aren't they called the something? The Raconteurs? Raconteurs, but yeah. I can't remember what it is. Everywhere else in the world they're called the Raconteurs, and here they're called the Saboteurs, or vice versa.
Oh, I have
and
heard
it's because
that,
there's a band, but somehow they only registered the name in Australia. It's something very weird.
That
and
is
I think
weird
the
that you
same
have to
thing
do
happened
that.
to him.
Like it's a band. Like a band has a name.
Yeah.
You just leave it, and it's like, oh yeah, someone else has the same name, but these guys are from America, so they're different.
Yeah, but I think Him and Her is your listeners are going to listen to me like, this guy's a fucking psychopath. What are you talking about? That's so wrong. And I'm sure that I'm right.
You'll be vindicated eventually.
Has nothing to do with what we're actually talking about as well.
Well, I think it's because inevitably, thinking about this film, I'd rather just be talking about or watching Jackass.
It did make me long for it a lot. When I was watching, every time Wee Man was on screen, I was like, how have they not written a scene into this where you like kickflip a skateboard off the roof and somehow accidentally land in a bucket of piss? Like, just anything, man. Come on.
Yeah, or he lands like balls first on a Christmas tree. Like, do I have to write everything? And
any time that they do anything that like puts him in danger, like he falls out of the sleigh at one point and lands like in a bush, and clearly like he didn't fall off the roof. It's like, but you've got Wee Man. You could shoot a wide shot of him rolling off the roof, landing in a bush, getting up and walking up to camera so you can see it was not a stunt person, it was him the whole time.
It's literally the main benefit of having someone from Jackass, especially because, unfortunately, Wee Man is not that good of an actor. So the main benefit would be for him to be able to do his own stunts. But more importantly, this was directed by Ethan Wiley, and then written and directed by Ethan Wiley and Richard Jeffries. Ethan Wiley, I don't think there's a huge amount that...
I mean, he wrote House and House 2. That's pretty cool.
Yes, he also wrote, and I had forgotten about this, and Martin Dunlop, if you're listening, this will upset you. He also wrote the film Brutal, which was another one of Jeff's movies, which we covered way back when. I covered with Martin Dunlop, which he fucking hated. I didn't like it, obviously, but it's written about as well as this, so to each their own. I'm trying very hard to be a little bit more graceful.
His IMDb known for, I would say, is flat out impressive. Like, his top 4 known for, he was a performer in Jason X. That's pretty cool. He wrote House and House 2, and he was a creature technician in Star Wars Return of the Jedi.
Yes, he does have a lot of fingers in a lot of different pies.
Come on, man. That is a hell of a legacy to get around.
Well, he's been adjacent to a lot of good projects. But he hasn't been directly responsible.
He's adjacent to greatness. That's his legacy.
He hasn't been directly responsible for anything really great because and that's the thing. I don't know where his skills lie, because I don't
think he does, looking at his filmography,
well,
honestly.
because that's the thing. The direction in this is fine. Like if you were doing just like a Hallmark Christmas movie, whatever, it's fine. The writing is not terribly good, but also the acting is not amazing as well. So sometimes one can affect the other. You know, good writing can save a bad script and vice versa. This is going to be your classic, like, you know, misunderstood underdog saves the day kind of thing. So it's classic Christmas movie, but as I said, 'tis the season.
I do have a question about that, because I was confused multiple times during this film. Is this a classic underdog story? Because I've question after question. He is an elf and does elf things as elves are wont to do, yet somehow feels like he is not elf enough, but he's built all these amazing magical toys that are exactly what elves should do, and he's been given a promotion. Now he's actually like on Santa's sleigh, but somehow he seems like, I swear in the original draft, like he was drunk or something in the back of that sleigh, because when they cut to him, he's acting, behaving like he's drunk. They just don't have the bottles clattering. So at what point is he actually an underdog? He's doing great. And he has magic powers.
He does have magic powers. He just kind of has this sort of lack of confidence or an identity crisis or something that the adorable motherless children in this film have to solve. I mean, you know, that's a classic Christmas story. You have to have some sort of conflict in order for it to be resolved in a very Christmassy way.
I think like one of the things that this film does that hamstrings itself is, I love a movie that like takes place in a day. I love when they're like, hey, we're doing the whole film in 24 hours or over one night. Over one night movies are some of the best movies ever. Somehow like an over one night Christmas Eve movie, it really undercuts any ability to build any sort of emotion, tension, stress, because like their big crisis when Elf shows up is Dad's not home yet. Dad's a bit late.
Dad's late.
Dad's 45 minutes late for dinner. That's how Christmas was.
Yeah.
Oh, and also happiness. And he's like, fuck happiness. I'll just find your dad.
Yeah. It's like he's taken a while at work or whatever.
Yeah, he went to the shops and he hasn't come back at the exact time he said he would. So can you help us?
So Dad is a scientist. He's making some sort of like electricity chip, and it's going to change the world.
Yeah, Dad is like a competent version of Rick Moranis in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, because his invention actually works in a way he intended.
Yes, and you know people want to get their mitts on it because it's going to be very, very lucrative for them.
Yeah.
And look, the kids are very cute, and you know, as is often the case with your sort of Disney style movies, the mum is gone in some capacity. I can't actually remember if she's passed away or just left.
Oh no, she's dead.
Okay,
she's dead. This is a dead wife movie.
Yeah.
This is absolutely dead wife movie.
Another one of those.
You know what I found quite upsetting about the start of this movie has nothing to do with the fact that the wife is dead. Is that the dad in this movie, his wife is dead. He has 2 children. It's been about a year since the wife died. My wife has passed away. I have 2 children. It's been about a year since my wife passed away. He has literally solved the energy crisis in the world for all time.
Yes.
And I rewatched the entire of Seinfeld 3 times. Like, I felt like, there's more I could have done.
Who's to say which of those is more useful? I mean, you know, this guy is like, you know, tinkering around, but Seinfeld's a really good show.
Succeeding. He is doing so well.
He's doing well, but you know what? His kids are boring. So
oh man, I feel so bad. I really struggle to pick on kids in movies. So I was like, how are they meant to be better?
Yeah.
How meant to know better? Like no one is just like when you see a child actor who is genuinely amazing, like a Macaulay Culkin, who is genuinely amazing. I don't think people appreciate how like just phenomenally incredible that is. And so every other child actor you see is just kind of not that great. Like leave them alone.
Because you remember the particularly good ones. You know, I'm thinking of like I completely forgot his name, but the kid from E.T. You know,
Drew Barrymore's big brother.
He grew up and he did all the stuff with Mike Flanagan. He's still an amazing actor, but he was an amazing actor when he was a kid as well.
He's so fantastic in this film.
Yeah.
But these kids are not fantastic.
These kids are fine. So Dad finds like an elf toy from when he's a kid. He goes into town for ham
on Christmas Eve.
But
also, I don't know if you noted this, he goes into town to get ham on Christmas Eve. There is a full-blown Christmas parade happening in town, and he left the kids at home. There's like crazy calls. Just take your kids, you jerk.
What do kids care about a parade?
I was like, why would you not bring your children to this?
They're sitting at home.
They're so sad.
They're sitting at home waiting for Grandma and her horrible fruitcake. I think.
The running gag that Grandma can't cook in this movie, it starts to feel mean.
It is. It's like, come on, she's doing her best.
Bro, you're not cooking anything.
Yeah, it's like, hey, she seems nice. Just, pretend to like her cooking.
Jesus.
The lady at the butcher's is clearly in love with Dad. I have realized when I look at my notes that I haven't given any of these characters' names, and I think it's because I was not invested in this. I think they've just gone, Dad, butcher lady, children, grandma,
Looking
elf.
at the credits, I'm genuinely surprised that most of these characters have names. Honestly, I didn't think they did. Jeffrey Coombs' character's name is quite literally Mickey in this movie, so it is exactly that. It's Mickey, Eric, Amy, Casey, Ryan, Grandma, spelt Gramma. Jean-Pierre is the French one, because of course. Big Bucket. It's worth noting that if you look these actors up on IMDb, most of the cast do not have headshots on IMDb, so I don't actually know who is who.
There's a great shot, though, where when we cut back to the house, they're eating the most disgusting 70s ass food.
Oh, bad.
Like, it's like jelly with pineapples on top. They keep hammering home how shit a cook grandma is. It looks fucking disgusting. She tells the kids that the elf is magic. The kids make a wish. Lo and behold, Santa, I guess, because his elf assistant has like an iPad and Santa has a little headset.
An iPad, which, you know how when you see a movie and someone has an iPad and it's always like, hey, it's an iPad, but the icon is like a pineapple or a chicken or something. They didn't even put a fake backing. It's just an actual iPad, and she has the actual iPad headphones in.
Well, yeah.
At some point you have to suspend disbelief. We're talking about Santa and elves. But she has in the headphones with the little, like, I answer disconnect button that you have for the wired Apple headphones.
Like the mic, yeah.
And she's using that to contact Santa on a two-way radio. And I can get on board with like Christmas magic, but one of those is a cellular device, and one of those is a shortwave radio device.
Those are different
and
devices.
They don't talk to each other. And holding the button down on that device does not actually.
Yeah, because it's not a walkie-talkie.
It's an answer and a hang up. Yeah.
Yeah. That really took you out of the Christmas magic, didn't it?
Honestly,
like, fuck Christmas.
I spent a full 10 minutes being like, what the fuck is going on? Never mind everything else. What are you doing with that iPad? Like it's some sort of a CB radio.
Yeah.
Also, I've never seen this before in another Christmas movie in my life, Lisa. Why does Santa have elves in the sleigh on Christmas Eve helping him? I've never seen that. Santa's a one-man show. Elves in the North Pole. Santa in the sleigh.
I don't watch a lot of Christmas movies. I hate to be grinchy, but I'm not a super Christmassy person. So I don't watch a lot of Christmas movies. I don't mind movies that are set at Christmas, Die Hard, etc. But I don't like movies that are too much about Christmas. So I don't watch a huge amount, but I feel like sometimes there must be movies where Santa has help.
Santa usually has help, though, from like human children, because in the Santa Claus, they start the movie by killing Santa, and then the new Santa needs help, so his son helps him. In the Christmas Chronicles, Santa, his reindeer run off and his sleigh is out of juice. I can't remember what the gist is, but there's two human children who have to help him get what he needs to get his sleigh back in the air. In Elf, Santa Claus crashes, and then Buddy the elf, who just happens to be in New York, comes and helps him. And yes, it's called Elf, but he's not an elf, he's a human. That's the whole point of the movie. Like, actual elves from the North Pole don't help Santa on Christmas Eve.
That's true.
They stay back in the North Pole and get shit-faced because their job's done.
Yeah, like my if I had to think about Christmas that much, it would be elves make the toys, which means they're always in the North Pole. Once the toys have left the workshop, their job is done, and I presume they get Christmas Day off, and then they probably start making them again.
That's
on
my
Boxing
theory.
Day.
They get like Christmas Eve, Christmas Day off, and they go like hand. They do horrible elf things, like worse than like the characters in Wizard of Oz allegedly did behind the scenes. Kind of just
elf fucking.
Yeah, like
elf
the Munchkins.
drugs.
Apparently, the Munchkins in Wizard of Oz, the worst and most depraved shit you could think of went on in that
Hell
movie.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's what the elves do every Christmas Eve. As soon as Santa flies out, they're just like, crack a beer, and they're like, "Where's Mrs. Claus? Let's get crazy."
Well, yeah, they've worked hard. They've been making billions of toys
For free.
Do the elves? Do you think elves don't get paid?
If Santa's giving away the toys for free, where's Santa getting the money to pay the elves?
Racketeering?
I think the only way is like Santa. The North Pole is just sitting on like some premium oil.
Oh yeah,
He's
they
just
let they let America come and
yeah,
drill.
he's just like or the Saudis or someone. He's just got a pipeline running, or some kind of like he launders cash for like the Russian mafia, or arms dealer of some kind.
He's probably got a lot of grifts.
He's got to have some side hustles,
Well,
and then he gives away all the presents to like get the heat off.
Yeah,
You're like, oh, that's Santa guy. He's pretty cool.
I would assume that the elves are getting like minimum wage.
But elf minimum wage, like cookies. I think they're getting cookies.
They get paid in cookies, do they?
They
don't know what money is.
What's currency in the North Pole?
Well, fish.
Like if Santa is keeping you in a workshop and all you do is make toys to give away.
Yeah.
And he's like, here's a cookie. And like, I guess this is good. Is this my reward system?
I guess you'd have room and board. Like, what are you going to spend your money on?
Yeah. Like they're not allowed to leave.
Yeah. Yeah, so they're less workers and more prisoners, aren't they?
Is that why Elfman is so depressed? Because once he gets out in the
least.
world, he's like, wait, these people are allowed to have lives?
Wow. Freedom.
No, I didn't know this was a thing.
Oh, he's like a genie. His only wish is to be free. The other elf assistant, aside from iPad Lady, is Wee Man, who we mentioned from Jackass. He's Santa's chief poop scooper for the reindeer.
That's right.
And then so he...
I watched it yesterday and I forgot about that.
Yeah, look, it's a noble job, you know, because the reindeer probably shit a lot, and then you don't want them shitting on people's roofs and clogging up their gutters or whatever. Anyway, he's like ruminating about the true meaning of being an elf or his true purpose and all that shit. Jeff is one of the 3 cronies who kidnaps Dad.
Yes. Along with Jean-Pierre and Big Bucket.
Yes. One of them has a pinstripe fedora. I forget which one it is.
That's
Gross.
Jean-Pierre, the French one. Of course it's the French one.
Immediate villain vibes if you have a pinstripe
He's got
fedora.
a mustache as well.
They want his chip, the electricity chip.
Yeah, a quick question there. Why? How do they know it exists? Why do they want it? What are they going to do with it? Things that are never established in the movie.
They've got intel, you know, evil reasons.
But like it's never clear why it's so important to them, particularly to Jeff or Mickey. Why is it so integral that they get this chip on Christmas Eve of all nights?
I watched it much longer ago than you did, so I'm going on my notes, but I have to assume they are the greasy middlemen for a corporation who want control of the electricity device.
But look, sure, never established. Is the partner that the dad calls at the start double-crossing him? Because there's the guy at the start who's in the bar cracking onto the girls, and the guy calls him, like, you got to come check this out. He's like, nah, it's Christmas Eve. And he's just like looking, and the girls are way too into it. There's a lot of, like, you're asking a lot of the audience to believe some of the things that you put in this.
Not just elf powers either, like, you know. Just
That's the easiest thing to buy in this.
yeah, that's actually easier than
It's
everything
that
else.
the elf is actually a superhero.
Well, for some reason, Wee Man, he falls off the roof, and Santa leaves without him, which is I mean, mean. It's not clear whether Santa didn't see him or whether he just doesn't like Wee Man.
There's 3 people in the sleigh. Hey, you're not going to notice one of them is missing.
Exactly, especially if it's the guy with such an important job as cleaning up the reindeer shit.
Yes.
The baddies take Dad back to the house to get the chip. They see Elfman walking around outside, and he tells them that's his patrol troll.
Yep. So, again, immediately these characters know of the existence of and wholeheartedly believe and buy into the idea that a troll is in this small, like, Midwestern town.
Yeah, every town, USA. Yes.
Patrolling, because trolls are real.
Yes.
In this, and not only are trolls real, but Jeff used to be in some sort of special secret military and fought a troll on a bridge in Germany and was the only one to survive.
He does tell a story about that, which is quite good.
This is a game changer.
What's the big deal? I'm not afraid of a troll.
You should be. Germany, 1975. I was leading a Navy SEAL team on recon into East Germany. We came to a river near Munchenberg. 8 men crossed that bridge. Only one came back. Which one, Mickey?
He probably gets more comedy, as is often the case with villains in a movie. He gets more comedy than anyone else does.
Good.
Yes.
Give him everything. He's the only one who has any idea what he's doing. But so trolls are real in this universe.
Trolls are real, elves are real.
And leprechauns are real.
Yep.
And
iPads can connect to ham radios.
And one or multiple of the characters has encountered a troll or a leprechaun or an elf before.
Yes.
They all have prior knowledge of them. There is no surprises for the villains when it comes to these characters existing.
Yeah.
And we as an audience are just told, shut up and accept it.
It's a Christmas movie, fuck you.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, I think what's weird is that they leave because they believe Dad's story. Dad doesn't think it's weird that there's a little man wandering around his house.
He doesn't give a shit.
Like, he has to come up with an excuse in the moment because he needs the baddies to not want to go in the house. But why doesn't he think it's weird?
my elderly, probably like Alzheimer-ridden mother and my 2 young children in that house, and
Yeah.
there is a little man out front.
Just wandering around, dressed as an elf. He doesn't know the elves are real yet. He thinks someone is just dressed as an elf.
At
He's
no
like,
point,
well, I'm kidnapped. I'll have to deal with that later.
At no point does this poor actor get an opportunity to have a scene where he's like, "What a fucking night! I got kidnappers. I've solved energy crisis. I've found this hot butcher. I've been kidnapped, and there's a fucking little man at my house. Oh boy!
Can't I catch a break? I need a vacation.
No, he doesn't get any of it.
Can somebody get me a coffee? They don't give him any zingers.
Everyone is so chill about all the absurd shit that happens in this movie.
I think it just must be it must be a world in which magical stuff happens all the time, so much that it has become tedious every day, mundane.
Evidently, yeah.
Elfman magics his way into the house because he wants some cookies. One of the kids tries to beat the shit out of him. He asks if there's mistletoe in the house. That becomes like an Achilles heel.
That's the only thing in the movie that is like well written. Like, do you have mistletoe? No, Dad doesn't put it up since Mum died. It's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Like, mistletoe is the only romantic part of Christmas decorations.
True.
His wife's dead. He wouldn't want to be around that. Mm-hmm. And then they check off guns that shit, and it turns out that is important later.
Yeah.
Nothing else is threaded in this movie. It's like they had one good idea, and they're like, we're done.
They're like, oh yeah, oh wait, foreshadowing. That's a word I've heard. You can do foreshadowing.
But you only have to do it once with one thing, right? You never have to explain everything.
No, not everything. Just some things would be helpful. There is a good bit where Grandma smashes him in the face with a frying pan, though. It's good cartoon shit.
Yeah, that was fun.
The spot where the cronies take Dad is like an abandoned house, which is very close to his home. It's like in view. It's like up on a hill just nearby.
It's like a haunted house from a Halloween movie just next door.
Yeah.
At one point, I think the grandma says, "Oh, the old Smith place. Why, that's been empty for years."
Why, nobody would be in there now. Not even somebody on Christmas. Turns out Elfman needs to grant the kid's wish before Santa will come back.
Again, never explained or established. Just in that one line of dialogue, we're told
this is the logic.
Yeah, but he never comes to the realization.
No.
Like, Santa doesn't fly off or send him a text or something and be like, learn the true meaning of being an elf and I'll take you home. He's just like, did Santa... Like, he accidentally falls out of the sleigh.
Yeah.
Santa doesn't plan it.
No.
There's nothing suggesting that Santa deliberately runs off to knock him out. There's nothing that Elfman's like, I bet this is like, he's doing this to teach me a lesson.
He's testing me.
Yeah.
Santa's testing me.
Like, there's this little moment where he has a realization. No, he just, like, out of nowhere is like, I have to grant the wish or I can't go back.
You know, you know how it would be, you know.
You know that well-established fact about elves that we all know and just explaining would be pointless?
Oh, it's in every Christmas movie. It's as rudimentary as eggnog.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know.
You know, every time a bell rings, an angel gets... We don't need to go over it. Let's just get on to the next scene.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, what do you want, Mary? You want plot? Ugh. Butcher lady, Amy. She comes over and brings cold meats instead of toys. That's kind of funny.
That was a little bit funny.
That's funny.
Yeah.
This movie's not entirely without merit. It's fine. There's also a good moment when Amy tries to eat one of Grandma's cookies and throws it into the fire and it explodes.
Yep, that was good.
Yeah, there's good little jokes. Frenchman pretends to be a handyman to get into the house. Shenanigans ensue, as it does. There's a genre of joke that I hate in this. And I know that if this is meant to be a kid's movie, this joke makes more sense. If it's not meant to be a kid's movie, this joke is insulting. But there's one of those danger is my middle name jokes.
Yep.
It could be dangerous.
Hey, danger is my middle name.
Actually, it's Elmer, but let's not get into that.
It's one of those jokes where I'm like, that joke is so hack that to do it without irony or to do it without doing something interesting with it is insulting.
It is. And I think that's part of it speaks to the tone of this movie, which is the overall problem where it's not kiddie enough to clearly be a children's film.
Yeah, because a joke like that in a kid's movie is fine because kids don't have the kind of...
They haven't seen 60 years of movies and go, oh, that joke. They go, ha, ha, ha. But it's...
a 6-year-old being like, oh, that is so gauche.
Again with this shit.
Pasolini did this better.
There's nothing in it for adults. And there's nothing in it that is a clear direction of like, some of this movie is like a bit risque, some of this isn't. I'm starting to wonder if maybe like the version of the film they wrote and had ready to go, they had to change on the fly because maybe they just couldn't get the shot where Wee Man like did a good enough take. And they're like, okay, all the takes we have we can use are really like low key, really just G-rated. Maybe we make this a G-rated movie and we cut out the scenes that are a bit more risque altogether. Yeah. And we pivot on the fly.
Because I would have thought, like, if you were looking at someone from Jackass, a very filthy franchise, you would think that this would end up being a sort of filthy film. You know, it's going to have a lot of crude humor, semi-violent pranks, stunts and all that.
Yeah, well, again, you look at Johnny Knoxville's early career and all the films he was in were built around the idea that this guy's going to be like a completely crazy kind of wild card dude.
Yeah.
And we will either see him do or say terrible things or have terrible things happen to him. And that will be the reason he's in this movie. I also feel like this movie was like really built around Wee Man. It's called Elfman starring Wee Man.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that's on purpose.
I could easily see it being like a sort of crude kids movie. You know how there's a lot of those where it's like it's for kids, but it's very like gross out humor and stuff. Aimed at like 12-year-old boys.
Like I don't know. My kids are 5 and 10, and if I would ever be so cruel as to show them this film, I don't think there's anything in it for either of them that they would take. And they love movies. They love Christmas movies. I don't think either of them would really know what to make of it. They'd be kind of like, well, we don't know, was that for us or not? Well,
because as you were saying, there's not enough kiddie stuff to appeal to kids, and there's not enough non-kiddie stuff to appeal to adults, so it just doesn't have much of anything. It's just this kind of, it's stuff happening with no real guiding light in any particular direction. There is a good joke earlier when Jeff tells one of his lackeys to pick up some troll off at the shop, like a spray, and he just like fobs it off. It's like, but then like in this scene, Jeff has the can of troll off. That's kind of funny.
Again, like magic is real in this world, and they all accept it very readily.
Yeah, you can just get troll off at the. It's a heightened universe like The Substance.
Yes, it is.
Yes, in many ways, this film is like The Substance.
In almost every way, this film is like. If you loved 2024's smash hit, in my personal opinion, the best
body
release
horror
this year,
smash hit,
then you need to see Elfman.
Yep.
It is the greatest double feature you'll ever watch in your life.
There's so many similarities. It's insane. Elfman is a dead ringer for Margaret Qualley.
It's self-worth. There's a lot of stuff about self-worth stuff that both of them are trying to represent. Self-love.
It's a bit more subtle.
Yeah.
A bit more subtle in Elfman.
Men are responsible for both of their miseries. In Elfman's case, it's Santa.
As in most films.
In The Substance's case, it's all
Dennis
men.
Quaid. Yeah.
Representing every man ever.
Look,
eating prawns in extreme close-up in one of the greatest scenes.
Truly, The Substance has a lot of very visceral body horror. But truly one of the most disgusting things is every moment that Dennis Quaid is on screen in that film. He just has a way of being particularly disgusting just by being a person.
Yep. Yeah. So they captured something magical. As did Elfman. With Elfman, though, the way they capture something magical is they show you that Santa is inept. He goes to eat the cookies that he talked about, the ones that Elfman goes in the house to get, and they're all fucked up. And he's like, waves his hand and magically turns them into good cookies. You telling me that Elfman can make the cookies better, but Santa can't?
Yeah.
So what the fuck is Santa doing? Why is Santa there? He can't make the presents. He can't deliver them by himself. He can't make the cookies better.
He's like a CEO.
He's a figurehead.
He's just using the work of the little workers, to bolster his own net worth.
When is there going to be a reckoning?
When is there going to be
It's an uprising.
shooting?
That's
When is Santa going to get shot in the street? Yeah. Take him down once and for all.
like a pharmaceutical CEO. They're
Yep.
going to take him down the street and the people will cheer.
Yeah, picks up the phone. Hello, Luigi. I've got another job for you. I mean, look, we don't need. I don't need to get on a list by talking about that too much, but what a great story. The heartwarming tale of the season.
Who would have thought? What he's doing is amazing. I think given that this is a podcast purely about the great man, this is actually a brilliant film to watch as a Jeff fan because talk about elevating the material. Like no one else in this movie is on his level.
It's often the case.
Every scene he's in, he's like, I can do this better. There's that great story that Matt Damon tells about Robert De Niro. Not Robert, Jack Nicholson, the like shooter character in the back of the head, and that's it. And Jack Nicholson looks and he's like, I can do it, but better. And then like he starts adding to it. If you've never seen this scene, listeners, I encourage you just YouTube Matt Damon, Jack Nicholson's story, The Departed. But just a great story about how great actors can take something that is seemingly nothing and elevate it to be something that's one of the standout parts of a movie without any sense of like silliness. That is what Jeff is doing in this film. He just does it all with his physicality, his face. When he's having the standoff with the elf, it's like, yeah, man, this is like Quentin Jaws. Like, I get you've got some pain in you, and I see it, and I feel it, and I don't need the Indianapolis story from you. I understand your journey.
Jeff stopping the middle of Elf to talk about being on the Indianapolis and watching his friends blown apart.
If I had not even infinite money, if I just had like $50 million right now, I would spend some of that $50 million to get Jeff and whoever else is in the scene, and Wee Man, whoever back together, to shoot a scene to edit in where Jeff does stop and gives his version of the Indianapolis speech, explaining what happened when he went up against an elf.
Hey, look, there's a lot of traits that Jeff Combs and Robert Shaw have together. They're both good at being menacing while also being sympathetic.
Yes.
I mean, Robert Shaw's probably drunker on set a lot more than Jeffrey Combs is,
I hope so.
It was a different time.
I hope that no one is as drunk on set as Robert Shaw was.
No. It depends on the Bond film you're making. I'm not a Bond aficionado, but I think if you were making if you were making a more fun Bond film, because I feel like the idea I've gotten so far about Bond films is that they've gotten a lot more dour and serious in recent years.
The last one was just a flat-out bummer.
Yeah, so it's like, I think if you were going to make one that was a little bit more, shall we say, camp, or just a little bit more fun and action-y, like, I'd actually probably prefer to see him in like a Mission Impossible or a John Wick.
Oh.
Something with a little bit more of a heightened reality.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah.
I'd love to see him in one of those franchises. He would be a great villain for Mission Impossible.
Yeah, or like, working in the sort of... Because you know how in the John Wick universe there's sort of that... There's the whole vibe of the Continental, where everything's like... I don't know, there's like the weird suicide girls working in the call center and stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
because Ian McShane is on another level in those movies, and I feel like that's a Jeff level.
Yeah, I don't know, he could be like a porter or something. Or
he'd be a great barman, or like a maitre d'. If he was like the maitre d' in the Continental or something, and just having to come over and like deliver coded messages to John Wick. And then there's a fight scene, and it turns out he's got like 6 guns on him, and he fucking knows how to use them.
yeah,
This is a shootout with Jeff just annihilating dudes.
because I know back in the day he liked to do his own stunts. Felony was like 35 years ago now, so
Is that the Stephen Dorff
No.
felony?
no. Main other actor you would know in it is Lance Henriksen.
Oh, wow. That's a hell of a double bill.
Yeah, it's great. I think it's weird, though, as I said in the episode at the time, it's weird when you look up that film because Jeff is the main character in that film. He's the action hero. He's the John McClane. He's not on the posters. The 2 people on the posters are Lance Henriksen, who is arguably the villain, and some fucking cop who's also in the film. It is
Wow.
of huge annoyance to me because it's genuinely quite good. I quite like it as an action film.
Is Jeff like really good friends with his manager or his publicist or something and isn't cracking the whip when they're not getting him his dues? Because he's also not on the poster for Elfman.
Do you normally put villains on a poster
Well,
though
I mean,
for a kids movie specifically?
I mean, again, I keep coming back to this, but I feel like they're aping it on purpose. You look at Home Alone, front cover, particularly like Lost in New York, your front cover is Macaulay Culkin, Joe Pesci, Daniel Stern.
That's true.
the
You
World
need to know
Trade
what the
Center.
stakes are. Even though their father has been kidnapped by bandits, Amy and Grandma and the kids decide their top priority at the moment is to make Elfman a superhero costume so he can, like capital letters, believe in himself and rescue their father.
Yep, they are making a superhero costume for a character that already has complete and utter control over their magical powers.
But I think it's more like, you could do this yourself, but we're going to do it for you because we like you. And this is our way of showing that we like you. This montage is so much longer than it needs to be.
It's
fucking ages
Wow.
of like cutting cardboard and gluing pom-poms and all this shit. Like the costume is fine. It's cute because kids made it.
But I feel like they wrote that in, like, hey, what if the kids make the costume so we can get away with putting Ugg boots on this guy?
Yeah, yeah,
And
it's-
not real Ugg boots either. They're like the Kmart brand Ugg boots.
It's like, oh, the kids made it,
I watched this film in increments because I had to, including I realized I watched the first half of this movie and then I was like, I need a break. So I was watching it on Tubi because of course I was. And then I pressed pause.
Shout out to Tubi, we love it.
And then straight away Tubi was like, hey, do you want to watch Castle Freak? And I was like, I've never seen Castle Freak.
I'd much
So
rather watch that.
in the middle of this, I watched Castle Freak, and then the next day, I was like, all right, cool, let's finish it. And I clicked back into Elfman, and I realized I was not halfway through the movie. I had watched 3.5 minutes.
Oh, God.
But in my head, I was like, I've watched half that movie. But when I watched the second half, I literally watched it as I was building a deck. So I was like, I'm going to put my headphones on, I'm going to watch this, and I'm going to build a deck. And when it got to that montage where they were like doing stuff, they stopped talking for a bit, and I was like, I should actually like give 110% of my attention to this. I got so much of the deck built during that montage. It's honestly ridiculous. Like, it went from being a frame to half a deck just while they were making Elfman's outfit.
So everybody was creating at the same time.
That's it. I was inspired.
Yeah. Dad escapes from the cronies and goes back into the house. Now it's a home invasion movie.
Again, it's Home Alone again. I keep going back to it.
Yes, exactly. So as we mentioned, the mistletoe is like elf kryptonite, I guess. Jeff gets a bunch of it and really like fucks up Elfman.
Real bad. Established in this universe that mistletoe is elf kryptonite. Then Santa knows that mistletoe is elf kryptonite. And mistletoe is in every home at Christmas. And Santa does nothing to try and dissuade people from doing this. Are all the elves just like, what the fuck, bro?
But again, the elves don't normally go out on Christmas.
But those ones are in his sleigh.
Yeah.
He's telling people to hang. I feel like that's part of his control plan. It's like if the elves ever escape on Christmas, they'll see every house have mistletoe and they'll be like, fuck this, and they'll run back.
They're not
to
going
the
to get
North Pole.
far.
Them sneaky little bitches, they'll keep them in line.
Santa's a bit of a sadist.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, Santa's not kind in this movie.
The mistletoe gives him like bad electricity, sort of.
It seems like it simultaneously electrocutes him and sucks his powers out of him.
Yeah.
Like he's being drained to the point of death.
Vague badness.
Yeah. Like Shang Tsung taking a soul is how I felt it was happening.
Yeah.
But also he's being electrocuted.
But then it's fine because Dad and Amy kiss under the mistletoe.
This was really uncomfortable.
And it reverses the negative energy.
This is
quote
really
unquote.
uncomfortable when the kids are like, kiss her, Dad, kiss her.
Yeah.
And then as they're kissing, it's like, it's working. Keep kissing her.
Yeah.
Keep doing it. Keep more tongue, Dad.
Yeah, it's like-
Come on, get a hand under the shirt. What are you
Yeah.
doing?
Feel her up, Dad. It's mistletoe.
One hand on the tit and one hand start to just go inside the belt. See what she does. Maybe she's into it. If she doesn't push her hand away, keep going. This could be the moment.
Come on, Dad.
Dad.
What better time is it than Christmas to feel up your butcher? Oh, it's the only way to save his powers.
Put something in her stocking, Dad. Wink, wink.
Isn't that convenient that Elfman's powers are based on hooking up under the mistletoe?
See, in a just world, if this was the R-rated version, like as that was happening, it would just pan down to Wee Man, and he would just be like whacking it as he watched and winked. He'd be like, ha ha ha, yeah, mistletoe doesn't hurt my powers. I just want to watch you guys fuck.
It's fine. Yeah, I got my powers back. Fuck
Yeah,
you.
there'd be like a Crank-style scene where he's like, the only way to save me is for you to rail her right now while I
Yep.
watch.
Well, I guess I better. It is Christmas.
This is for Christmas. We could have made a better version of this movie in a weekend.
So I guess it's like horny goat weed in a way, where it's like mistletoe, like when it's used well, it like makes elves more magical.
Yeah. Yes.
but you got to do it in a horny way.
Just like Santa says.
Santa's favorite thing.
It's-
People underestimate how horny Santa really
he
is.
knows when you're sleeping, and he knows when you are balls deep.
He knows if you're bad at gobbies or good at gobbies. So be good at gobbies for goodness sake.
That's it.
Gobby's sake. Elfman gets powered up, but the bad guys have the chip, and he sets out. He swallows the chip to save it.
Yeah. And gets a new costume in the power-up.
Yes,
A good costume.
they did their best, and that's what Christmas is about. It did look shit, but that's fine.
But it's like the movie is saying, like, how fucking shit was that? How bad a job
Yeah.
did they do?
Don't worry, he only had to wear it a few minutes.
Now he's got a real outfit, which
Yeah.
also looks like the kids made it, but just off camera.
There's a big showdown in the barn. Elfman animates Grandma's horrible fruitcake, and the fruitcake attacks them. Which,
I would argue, the only special effect in this movie that doesn't look like hot dog shit. It's like crappy, not even SNES. It's original Nintendo animation style.
Yeah.
That they've just like clicked and dragged shit into frame. Be like, no one will notice.
Yeah.
It's so bad. But the fruitcake, that wasn't a bad effect.
No, yeah.
I was like, oh wow, that almost looks like a real movie. They spent the whole budget on that one thing, obviously, and we're like,
the money's in the fruitcake.
now it's click art for the rest.
Yeah. So we have like a big emotional ending. Elfman has faith in himself now. The kids are happy, and most important, Dad gets some ass.
Does he ever? And the kids are suddenly okay with it because of Christmas, Elf.
Yeah, they're like, cool, everyone's happy.
The only way we'll ever be happy with you being happy again, Dad, is if someone is literally going to die,
Yeah.
and our options are kill a magical creature or you be happy.
Yep.
And I guess we'll let you be happy.
Well, I mean,
Fuck those kids.
they don't dislike Butcher Lady. when
They
she-
flat out hate her. Like, when she shows up, they slam the door in her face.
Do they? Yeah.
Yeah, she shows up and she's like, hey, and they slam the door in the face. Because, like, it's that girl that Dad likes. And then they're jerks to her. Also, something we skipped over, which makes no sense. So they're jerks to her. Grandmother's like, what are you doing? Lets them in because Grandma's like, I want my baby boy to get some.
As any mother does.
But she pulls him aside and is like, you don't ruin this for your dad. So instead of saying the very normal, Dad's not home yet, they go, yeah, Dad's here. He's upstairs in the shower.
Yeah.
And then they make Elfman pretend to have a shower. It's like, why wouldn't you just say Dad's not back yet?
Yeah, because saying he is here means she'll come in and wait for him. Whereas if you had told the truth and said he's not here, she would have just left and probably come back.
Or she would have just hung out and been like, oh, okay, I guess he'll be back soon. I'll wait.
Yeah.
But then also she goes into the shower.
Yes.
She closes her eyes, but she just goes in and is like, oh, hey, sorry. This is like, no one does that. Don't act like that's a thing that people do.
No.
Not to a customer from your butcher's shop.
I mean, imagine if I had come here tonight and you were in the shower, and instead of just waiting politely in the lounge room, I like went into, even with my eyes closed.
It's
in the
all
shower.
right. My eyes are closed. I'm
It's
just going
all
to
right.
hang out in the bathroom while you shower with my eyes closed.
Yeah. I'll just talk to you while you're in the shower. A very easy and normal thing to do between platonic friends. And also, I'll put my arm out randomly. Hopefully, I don't accidentally touch something. Like it's such a weird like crowbarring in this sort of farce. There is a bit where Wee Man like wipes away like a non-existent tear. That's fucking stupid as hell. I was like, what? You couldn't have put the little fake tear? Like it's
You didn't even have money for some saline drops, guys? Come on.
So there's some nice like Christmas songs in the credits in like a sort of non-traditional carol style way, which I quite like.
I think it's because they couldn't get the rights to anything, honestly.
Yeah, because I mean most carols are in the public domain, I guess.
Yeah, I guess it depends on who's singing them. So if you want any like the fun versions, they've been re-recorded by modern artists, and then they're back in.
Yeah, but you could record your own fun version of most, because most carols.
Maybe they did. Maybe the director sang the songs on this movie to save a buck and to get some extra tunes in. I wouldn't be surprised.
I could believe that. I feel like modern Christmas songs, like All I Want for Christmas Is You or something, that would still be in copyright. But Christmas carols are very old. Something like Sleigh Bells is in every Christmas movie. So
Yeah.
it's like that must be public domain now. It's just whoever, you just get like a half-decent singer to sing it. And that's the story of Elfman. We went through it mercifully quickly.
Well, the actual plot of this film is 5 minutes, really. Like, Dad gets kidnapped. I don't even know what the next part of that sentence is because the elf doesn't discover their special powers. They already had them. They
Yeah.
have them. They use them multiple times. They're a bit of a dick, and they don't want to use them anymore. And then they decide to stop being a bit of a dick,
Yeah.
and they use them again. But they're never enough of a dick that you're like, oh, this is a movie about a bad elf.
Yeah, it's not clear if we're doing like a hero's journey thing. It's not clear what the journey is meant to be. The journey
He
is
doesn't-
basically like I had a brief identity crisis, but it wasn't that bad, and I'm fine now.
Oh, also at the end of this movie, threatened to kill him, threatened to kill his children, and the movie ends with them all taking a photo in front of the Christmas tree as friends.
I mean, is that not the meaning of Christmas? To forgive people who kidnap and
One of them
threaten?
is a wanted criminal who has skipped bail, and the cops are like, it's Christmas.
it's Christmas.
Like someone says, are you really going to send them to jail on Christmas Eve? Like that's a fucking statute in the law.
Yeah,
the
yeah,
cop's
it's
like, ooh, the cop whose name is Officer Schlub. That's his name in the credits. Officer Schlub.
That's a good
goes,
name.
I don't know if I can send them to jail on Christmas Eve.
Ah.
Maybe we'll just all have dinner and forget the whole thing.
You rascals.
He didn't cut you too bad, did he, Dad? How many fingers you got?
Officer Schlub is a very good name for a cop. Every cop in every movie should be called Officer
That
Schlub
would be
because that's
amazing.
what they are, really.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, it's kind of like, it's you're not gonna punch a guy with glasses, are you? It's like, yeah, you wouldn't put someone in jail on Christmas. Come on, it's Christmas.
I mean, none of them learnt their lesson and all still are actively trying to steal from and hurt us. But it's Christmas and Elfman got a new costume.
yeah,
We did skip a one of the mildly fun scenes in this where Officer Schlub pulls over the van and Big Bucket is driving to get the troll off at the time because
Yeah.
it's just him. And the officer's like, hey, you got a tail light out. I'm going to have to take you to jail. Gotcha. And then he's like, hey, what's going on in this van? He sees something in the camera cut. He looks, it's just like a can on the floor of the van.
Yeah.
And the music gets dramatic. And I was like, what? It's not a gun. What is it? What are you showing us? And then Big Bucket is like, all right, I'm going to level with you. I'm with these guys. They're criminals. They're crazy, man. I
Yeah,
never want
just
to do this anymore. I skip
unloads.
bail. I just want to get out of this thing, man. And it's quite a good scene. The cop's like, yeah, you got me back. Good one. And then walks off.
Yeah.
And I was like, where's that in the rest of the movie? Where is that kind of just whimsy and a bit of fun? And
Yeah.
the actor did a good job in that one scene. I was like, oh, if you give him some dialogue, he can actually turn out something cool. Well, that's it. Christmas movies, people, I don't think about this when they think about them, but the theme of a Christmas movie is crisis. Every Christmas movie is about something going wrong at
Merry
Christmas. Merry Crisis.
Merry Crisis. Merry
But it is,
Chrysler.
like every Christmas movie that you've ever seen is about something going wrong at Christmas.
Yeah, but usually it's something apart from like Home Alone, which is traumatizing. Usually it's something stupid where it's like, oh no, my family, they got locked out of the house because the door froze shut or something. It's usually fairly minor, but it gets blown up into a crisis because the whole family is here and everybody's running around like chooks and stuff like that.
I mean, again, the Santa Claus, the plot is they literally kill Santa, and this was a children's movie that I watched as a child. That's trauma. I've never gotten over that one.
That is true. That is quite it's quite upsetting.
It's really like I will not show it to my children.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to show my kids a movie where they kill Santa Claus at the
Yeah, and also
in
George.
the opening 3 minutes.
Yeah, and also George Bailey kills himself. Yeah, okay, I can see how Christmas movies are often pretty traumatic.
They're all like about horrible shit. People
I retract my
either-
statement.
They're either in a horrible crisis or they're in a horrible crisis and they already fucking hated Christmas.
Yeah, and then the lesson is always to learn to love Christmas. No,
Yeah.
most people don't end a Christmas movie hating Christmas
Or
still.
if the person at the center of it all loves Christmas, everyone around them hates Christmas.
Yeah.
Like it's never nice. No one's ever having a good time.
Well, yeah, I mean, most Christmas movies are about learning to love Christmas or loving Christmas more and appreciating the magic of Christmas, which, again, is probably the reason I don't like most Christmas movies, because I don't appreciate being told that Christmas is that good. But yeah, it is definitely weird what we talked about before about that there isn't a huge amount of stunts. But I also realize when I think about Jackass, I realize that Wee Man is definitely one of the weaker parts of Jackass. Like, most of the stuff he does in Jackass is with Preston, because they're usually
Big guy, little guy.
big
yeah,
guy,
yeah.
little guy. They're usually doing that. And he's not like Johnny or Steve-O, who will really, like, just ruin themselves. Like, Wee Man does not get out in the bull pit
No.
as much as Johnny does. He doesn't, like, he doesn't like throw himself into traffic as much as anyone else does. A lot of his stunts, from what I can remember, are often about like maybe like the element of surprise. Like when they do a thing where Preston goes into the toilet and then Wee Man comes out. Stuff like that.
But you know what he is in that, if you think about it, like the Jackass TV series and the movies, because he's the one who is always like every time they cut to him, his face is lit up. He's like so delighted. He's filled with joy. He's always laughing.
He's
having a
very
good time.
cheery.
He's so positive, and he's so like happy with the friends that he's with and the things that they're doing, and he just enjoys being in the moment. Like he's the one that you look at, and like there's nothing mean about him. There's nothing like like some of the shit that Johnny does is like, you are a sick bitch, Johnny Knoxville. And some of the stuff that Steve-O does is usually to himself. You're like, you are a sick bitch, Steve-O.
Yeah.
But Wee Man is the one where you look at him and like, yeah, you're right. He's not really in the shit, but he's watching and filled with such joy at his friends doing this. You're like, ah.
They also realize, like, often in Jackass, he's not like a little bitch like Bam is. Like, Bam does a lot of like fun, like skating stunts, but then, like if there's ever something that he's not 100% interested in, he'll just like cry, or he'll bitch and moan so much.
Yeah, Bam wants to be the guy who's pranking someone, not the guy getting pranked.
That's not Jackass rules, baby. Everyone gets pranked.
Everyone. Yeah. Everyone's got to get pranked.
Even Knoxville.
Yeah, and he loves it.
He gets fucked over.
How many times has that guy had a concussion? Like, he's going to die young and painfully, and he's like, this is worth it.
You know what, though? The great irony will be that Johnny Knoxville will have gone through his whole life doing all of his stupid shit, and he'll probably die of something really asinine.
Oh, yeah.
He'll probably, like, just literally, like, slip on a peanut or something.
That would be so
like
perfect.
A single little cashew nut on his kitchen floor or something.
See, that would be fitting. What would be worse is if he just, like, in, like, 30 years, we look at whatever device exists then on whatever platform shares news at that point. This is like, former stuntman / performer Johnny Knoxville passed away peacefully in his sleep this morning at the age of 98.
Just went out,
didn't wake up.
All of his injuries had healed by then. He was fine.
The paramedic said he was smiling when we found him. He seemed great.
Yeah, and he had a huge boner. He was really happy.
Boner.
Yeah,
he could still get it up at 98.
Yeah,
he was smiling.
I believe he could.
All was well.
I don't know who to recommend this to. Probably just freaks like me who are Jeff completionists, because, as we said, I don't think it's that good for children, but it's not particularly good for adults either. If you are in a particularly Christmassy mood and you want something that isn't just a woman goes back to her hometown and marries a lumberjack or whatever the fuck, this is obviously like a little bit different to your traditional Christmas fare.
Yes, it is.
And it's fine.
It's fine. I think there's two camps that you could recommend this to. One is if you want to see a Christmas movie where it's like the lead isn't normal humans or Santa, it's the next logical step. Like there are precious few movies where an actual elf is the main character. There's a couple of the animated ones. I think the only other live action one is Elf, which again, he's not an elf. He's a human who thinks he's an elf. So this is the only live action elf movie I can think of.
Yeah.
Where one of the leads or the main character. So I guess if you dig on Christmas and you're like, man, I'm just tired of seeing the same Santa stuff, it's good. I think the other camp is like, if you, as a Jeff fan, are ever trying to show people how talented he is as a performer and what he can do, this is a movie to highlight that. You're like, watch this movie. Sit down and watch this movie start to finish.
Yeah.
And you tell me at the end the times when your interest was piqued, when you were actually looking up from your phone, when you were like, oh, what's going on here?
We'll put people in a polygraph.
Guarantee you it's the times when Jeff is on screen.
He's enigmatic.
And then you will look back at your phone when he's not. Like, anytime he's not on screen, you're like, what's happening? All right, I guess.
Well, because you never see an elf in a Christmas movie that's not working in Santa's workshop.
But maybe that's just because in Christmas movies you have Christmas elves. Like in Lord of the Rings, you have elves.
That's true.
Who are not Christmas elves.
Yeah, so it's almost like a genus.
So you could
a Christmas
have
elf is a different branch of elf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's like
they were bred specifically
in a lab.
Oh no.
But maybe it's like I don't know, maybe they get born in Middle Earth. And they look around and like, I don't want to fight Sauron. Are we out of your goddamn mind? What else you got? And like, oh, there's this crazy fucking wizard up in the snow who
Yeah.
just makes toys and gives them to kids. Like the snow wizard.
Also
Give
a
me
wizard.
that.
Yeah.
He'll give you cookies whenever you want. Fuck yes.
Those are your two options, apparently, in mythology.
Well, what is it they say in the movie Elf? Is like you can make shoes, you can make cookies, or you can work for Santa, which is the big show. Because there's always the story about the elf and the shoemaker, or the shoemaker and the elves, whatever that title is. And then I think Keebler elves are a big thing in America. The cookie elves, they're like mascots. They make cookies in trees.
Okay.
But that's a corporate thing. That's not a legend.
As
or
far
a
as
lore
we
or
know.
As far as we know.
I'm gonna need a map, like one of those like diagrams of the original elf and like how it's split off and evolved into other types of elves.
It is pretty fucked when you think about it, though, because in all Christmas stories, elves have some kind of power. Whether it's they can make toys at an alarming rate, or they can travel great distances in a short amount of time, or they can fly, or they have like the elf version of pixie dust. Whatever it is, they have incredible power. And they are always just bitches in a workshop. They never seem to recognize, like, oh, we're gods. We could go to the rest of the world and we could conquer them in 3 hours.
So you're saying that elves should unionize and
Yeah, I don't know how they haven't.
become Mecha elf
Yeah.
and storm through Manhattan like Godzilla
Yeah, they should murder Kris Kringle and hang his head from the town square
as a warning to others.
just to let them know. And then they should unionize and be like, hey, by the way, bitches, we can make anything. And if we can make anything, guess what? We can make bombs. We're quick. Oh, and we're magic. So come get some, or we're in charge of the world now.
And that was the day that Christmas truly died. Merry Christmas, everybody. Angus Brown, anything to plug?
Not phenomenally. If you like podcasts about movies, you can listen to a podcast called Sequels Suck.
I don't imagine anyone listening to this likes podcasts about movies.
I don't know if we've ever done a Jeff movie. Has Jeff ever done a sequel?
I still know what you did last summer.
We have done a Jeff movie. We did do an episode of that with early on, because I forced that on my co-host. I was like, I still know what you did last summer.
Yep.
I love this movie. And I forgot he was in it. And I watched it, I was like, this is an incredible scene. I want a whole movie of this character. And why isn't he doing more stuff like this? Why doesn't he have a TV series where he's like the maitre d' of, or the concierge of a haunted hotel?
You're getting hung up on this character. I think you're going to have to get in touch with him and be like, this is a role I think you should do. You put it in his head and he'll, hopefully someone will write it for him. Or you just write a film. Go on.
Or just Mike Flanagan, if you're listening, the next time you do one of your things, can you just put Jeff as like the guy who runs the hotel? But don't do that bullshit where he's like in 5 minutes of the pilot and then we see him like in episode 8 and then that's it. Put him in every episode.
Well, look, he's done a couple of things so far. So, Stream, Dark House was very similar.
Or just give him like a really sick gig, like an anthology show, where he's like not the Crypt Keeper, but that kind of deal, where he introduces and closes each episode. If we were in the 90s and we were just churning out like post X-Files kind of shit like they did for a while, they're like, hey, spooky shit works, let's do it.
Yeah,
Jeff would have to get something like that going. Come on, Shudder. What are you doing, Shudder?
I know.
Come on, Shudder. I mean, Shudder sing the praises of all these people. Why aren't you just giving him a goddamn original series?
It's one of the great injustices. We talk about
this
it
is
all the
upsetting
time.
me. Now that I've come to this conclusion entirely on my own in my own head, I'm angrier that no one else has ever dealt with this problem I just discovered. Him and Tom Atkins. These are like two horror legends I just want to see just fucking rock up and be in a long-running TV series. Jeffrey Combs and here you go, Hollywood. Take this as free. Jeffrey Combs and Tom Atkins are retired detectives who, I don't know, bullshit, but one of them can see ghosts now and the other one can't, but they're best friends, so he just believes that he can. And they go around solving ghost crimes
Perfect.
and helping people out. It's like, give it the tone of like Monk.
Yep. 22 episodes,
6 seasons in a movie.
30 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, Mystery of the Week.
X-Files.
Fucking Tom Atkins and Jeffrey Combs just making everyone so fucking happy as like
Yep.
a bickering kind of odd couple. Make Tom Atkins the one who can't see ghosts.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Combs is the monk style character. Like has weird little like quirks and tics.
Yeah.
And Tom Atkins is like, we were on the force together for 30 years. He's my best friend. And he married my sister and then she died. And
Yeah.
I don't know, something, the bullshit they do.
We're different, but we get along.
Yeah. For some reason they live together. I don't know. I'm doing your work for you, Hollywood, but
Yeah.
Make this show. I will watch every episode. Everyone would watch every episode.
It's also very weird that does sound amazing. It is very weird that Jeff never did an X-File either. I don't know why. Maybe it was because he was doing Star Trek around the same time. But
Did he do any of the other ones? Did he do
No.
like a Millennium or a Burning Zone? Or like there was so many Monster of the Week shows around in the late 90s.
from what I recall from his TV stuff, he actually hasn't done a huge amount of horror TV.
I guess it takes time for you to become like a legend, doesn't it? You know, when you're making like Reanimator and Bride and Reanimator and things, like no one was talking about John Carpenter as like the master of horror in 1984.
No,
Like,
it comes after
the
the fact.
You had to get when
yeah.
he had the catalog, and you look back and go, "Holy shit! Look what that guy did."
Well, yeah, he does talk about how we look at Reanimator as a real standout role for him now, but he often says the phone didn't ring after 1985. You know,
I mean, yeah, I get that. Now, why would it?
but it's only when you look at it after the fact, you look at someone who has a whole breadth of a career after that. And you see that was where it started. But at the time, people didn't see it as a starting point. They just saw it as another film.
Yeah.
Did you mention what your podcast is called?
It's
Angus?
called Sequels Suck.
Okay.
But we actually like sequels. It's an obscure reference to one single line that Joshua Jackson says in Scream 2. And we were like, everyone will get that. And then we've really had to do damage control ever since. Because people are like, you guys keep talking about these movies that are really... You did Terminator 2. That's
Yeah.
a great movie. We're like, no, we agree.
Yeah.
We like it.
It would be a really depressing podcast if it was just about hanging shit on sequels.
God,
Like,
I can't imagine anything worse. Just doing something where you're like,
Just being like,
this sucked. And
this one was shit too.
Yeah, here's another movie we hated, but we forced ourselves to watch.
Yeah.
Most of it is stuff we genuinely enjoy. We don't have time to talk about movies we hate. It's really the new ones are the ones that catch us. Like, oh, yeah, we got to talk about this. And then we go watch it. And we're like, well, we already said we were going to pod about it.
Yeah, I think it's only when you do a completionist podcast and you make that task for yourself that you end up having to sometimes watch stuff you don't really want to watch
Yeah,
or
we
wouldn't
don't-
have chosen
we don't
to
have
watch.
your problem. It's much more freedom in the sequels game.
Yeah, I mean, look, it is an entirely self-made problem that I could stop at any point. No
But
one
the
is
sickness,
forcing me.
Lisa, it won't allow.
No one is forcing me to make this podcast about this actor that a lot of people don't know about.
Was it Dr. Mordred? Is that the strange rip-off that Jeff did?
The Doctor Strange, yeah.
Yeah. What if he actually does have some kind of psychic powers and he's making you? Like he's sitting...
He's puppeting me.
He's in his
controlling
chamber
me.
and he's just in his little chalk sook and he's like, keep doing the pod, Lisa. And you're like, you must
Yes, well-
continue.
Okay, well, Jeff, if you can read my thoughts.
Ugh. Oh my God.